Barry Seal might be the only drug smuggler in history who managed to work with the Medellin Cartel, fly undercover missions for the DEA, get photographed with Pablo Escobar, testify in some of the biggest drug trials in American history, and still end up sleeping every night at a Salvation Army halfway house with a $500,000 bounty on his head. Somehow, that's not even the craziest part of the story. So the deeper you get into it, the harder it becomes to tell where the real history ends of Barry and the conspiracy theories begin. One minute, he's a commercial airline captain flying Boeing 707s for the TWA. The next, he's running cocaine in the United States by the ton, secretly working undercover against the Medellin Cartel. He's getting pulled into rumors involving the CIA, the Iran-Contra affair, Oliver North, and the White House itself. By the time it all catches up to him in Baton Rouge, 1986, so Barry, isn't just one of the biggest smugglers in American history anymore. He's become a man who knows way too much. He's got enemies on every side, and he's about to find out what happens when the government, drug cartels, and international politics all collide in the same story, and it's all against one guy.
Yes, it is.
Outlaws and Gunslingers. Real stories, the way they actually happened. Adler Berryman Seal, born in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, to Mary Lou Del Cambre, and Benjamin Curtis Seal, who works as a candy wholesaler.
Oh.
From the time he's a teenager, it's obvious the guy has got a talent for flying. He earns a student pilot certificate at age 16. Then he gets his private pilot's license at age 17.
Oh.
His flight instructor later says Seal was just naturally gifted in the cockpit. 1962, he joins the Louisiana Army National Guard for a 6-year enlistment. That includes 6 months of active duty, followed by another 5.5 years in inactive service.
Right, every other week?
You gotta go there, yeah. His active duty starts July 1962. And during that time, he's assigned to the 20th Special Forces Group. He also completes the selection and training at the United States Army Airborne School.
Nice.
After active duty, he serves with the 245th Engineer Battalion. So his military occupation code is radio telephone operator.
Hey.
Whatever.
Right. Works out. 1964. Seal, he lands a job with the Trans World Airlines. Ooh.
Oh, no.
Better known as a TWA.
You don't want to be taking those flight attendants home.
Well, he's working as a flight engineer. He moves up quickly in the ranks. First, he becomes a first officer, then a captain. He's flying a Boeing 707 on a regular. This route is into Western Europe.
Oh.
At the time, he's one of the youngest 707 command pilots anywhere in the TWA fleet. But his career falls apart in July 1972. This is when Seal gets arrested for allegedly being involved in a conspiracy to smuggle a shipment of plastic explosives into Mexico using a DC-4 aircraft.
Oh.
The case eventually gets thrown out in 1974 because prosecutorial misconduct. Ooh. But by then, the damage is done. Ain't nobody allowing him to fly a plane.
Not commercially.
TWA fires him right after learning he had falsely taken medical leave so that he could take part in the operation.
That's what the part they were more pissed about because they had to pay him.
I'm like, what the hell?
Well, he later admits that by early 76, he's already smuggling small amounts of marijuana by air. Before long, though, he realizes cocaine, that's where the real money is.
Yep.
By 78, he's moving major cocaine shipments. Pound for pound, cocaine brings in far more profit than marijuana ever could.
Always has.
One of the biggest turning points in his career happens when he gets arrested and thrown in jail in Honduras while coming back from a drug smuggling trip to Ecuador. Oddly enough, the time he spends locked up there ends up helping him more than hurting him, because guess what? What do you know about cocaine?
Right.
While in prison, Seal, he makes connections that become extremely important later on. One of those connections, Emil Camp, was another Louisiana pilot and smuggler who eventually becomes one of Seal's closest buds. Another is Ellis McKenzie, who's a Honduran smuggler with local connections. That's all you need.
Yep.
Then, after he gets released, he meets William Roger Reeves during the flight back to the U.S. That meeting turns out to be huge because Reeves is the guy who gives Seal his first real connection to the Medellin Cartel.
Uh-oh.
He also sealed his fate.
Right. Oh, my goodness. As that operation keeps on growing, Seal, he brings in William Bottoms. He's also a former brother-in-law. He said, you're going to be the pilot. Starting in 1980, Bottoms becomes the main pilot, flying for the organization, usually working alongside Emil Camp, while Seal handles the planning side and oversees the larger operation. By 1981, Seal's officially smuggling cocaine for the Medellin Cartel. At the height of it all, he's reportedly making about $500,000 for a single flight, carrying cocaine from Colombia into the United States of America. Seal's smuggling setup is actually pretty simple, at least in theory. He uses low-flying aircraft to avoid radar. He drops the packages of drugs into remote parts of Louisiana. Once the packages hit the ground, Seal's pickup crew moves in, collects them, transport them everywhere over the Colombian distributors waiting in Florida. By 1982, the operation has gotten massive. SEAL is now using more than a dozen aircraft to move drugs.
Jeez.
The sheer number of flights starts drawing attention from the Louisiana State Police, along with federals. At this point, the operation is just getting way too big to stay invisible. Well, trying to get away from that pressure, SEAL moves many of his planes over to Mena Intermountain Regional Airport in Mena, Arkansas. Out there, the aircraft gets maintenance work, modifications designed to increase carrying capacity and improve avionics. Okay.
Well, years later, SEAL's activities in Mena, they become surrounded by rumors and conspiracy theory. SEAL's biographer, former Federal Bureau of Investigation agent Del Hahn, he later claimed SEAL did not use Mena as a drug transshipment point. But in 2020, an extensive joint investigation involving the FBI, the Arkansas State Police, and the IRS, of course, they conclude that Barry SEAL actually had used the Mena airport for smuggling activity from late 80 till March of 84. By 81, agents with the DEA in Florida, they already know Barry SEAL is involved in smuggling. April of that year, a DEA informant introduces SEAL to an undercover DEA agent, and the two stay in contact for several months. Eventually, the undercover agent works out a deal with SEAL to smuggle 1,200 pounds of methaqualone tablets into the United States. The pills, they turn out to be fake, and they're actually made out of chalk. But
oh, no.
Matter. You don't know. What the hell is a methaqualone? Right. The case against SEAL becomes part of a much larger undercover investigation called Operation Screamer, which eventually leads to more than 80 pilots being indicted. By March of 83, 2 separate indictments, they come down against SEAL. First charges him alone with 2 counts of conspiracy to distribute methaqualone, Quaaludes. The second indictment he gets names him along with 3 other people and includes multiple charges involving possession and distribution of Quaaludes, phenobarbital, and meperidine, whatever those are.
Right. Wow. End of April of 1983, SEAL, he turns himself into federal authorities.
What an idiot, though. You were smuggling coke and shit. Why even try to take on pills?
Right. And he immediately tries to cut a deal. First, he approaches the Florida Task Force, then the Baton Rouge Task Force. Neither group is interested. Even after SEAL starts talking a little about his connections to the Ocho family from the Medellin Cartel.
Or the Ochoa, but yeah.
Yeah, Ochoa family. With no agreement in place, SEAL goes to trial, February of 1984.
It's a movie.
The trial lasts an entire month, and when it's over, he's convicted on every frickin' count.
Wow.
In March of 1984, Barry SEAL is staring at the possibility of 10 years in prison.
That's not bad.
So he decides it's time to cooperate. He reaches out.
Really, guy?
Right. He reaches out to the South Florida Task Force, which is a multi-agency drug interdiction group being led at the time by Vice President George H.W. Bush. The task force sends SEAL over to DEA headquarters. This is where DEA agent Ernst Jacobson is assigned to debrief him and figure out whether he could actually work as an informant or just send his ass in a jail cell. Jacobson comes away. He's impressed, especially with SEAL's connections to the Ochoa family. On the 28th of March, SEAL signs a formal letter agreeing to work as a DEA informant. Bam, baby, you get to walk the streets. Good for you, bud. After that, SEAL pleads guilty to the second Florida indictment. Instead of staying locked up, he's released from custody with the understanding that his eventual sentence will be dependent heavily on how useful he is in his format. So they got that hanging over his head. The South Florida Task Force then puts together a plan. The idea, well, it's simple. SEAL, he's to arrange a cocaine deal involving the Ochoa family and other cartel figures, so that federal prosecutors can later build criminal cases against them in the United States. That's simple. That's all you got to do is go risk your life.
Yeah, it's just simple. Up to that point, SEAL had hidden his real identity from cartel members by using the name Ellis McKenzie, which actually belonged to an associate he had worked with before. We told him already. Using his cartel contacts in Miami, SEAL sets up another meeting under that same fake identity. April 8th, he flies down to Medellin for the meeting, traveling with Miami-based cartel pilot. There's no idea SEAL is secret working as an informant, I would assume.
All right.
After the meeting, the people sitting down with SEAL include Pablo Escobar, along with Jorge Ochoa, Fabio Ochoa Jr., and Juan David Ochoa from the Medellin Cartel themselves. Around the same time, the Colombian government has just carried out a major raid against the cartel at a remote jungle cocaine complex known as Tranquilandia. And they destroyed millions of dollars worth of processed and unprocessed cocaine.
Millions.
Wow. Later on, SEAL's version of what happened during those meetings becomes a huge political issue.
Uh-oh.
The Reagan administration publicly backs part of his story, especially claims involving Nicaragua. Be careful.
Yep.
And Sandinista government, but the Sandinistas completely deny it. Of course they would. The whole thing ends up under intense media scrutiny.
I bet it does. According to SEAL, cartel leaders are trying to set up drug shipping and production operations inside of Nicaragua through an arrangement with the Sandinista government. And these plans supposedly are not fully in place yet. So SEAL's first shipment is supposed to fly directly into the US of A. The flight is originally planned for mid-April, but there's some delays that push it back into the end of May. And when that flight finally happens, things immediately go wrong. Aircraft is overloaded and crashes while taking off from an airfield in Colombia. The cartel quickly replaces that plane with another one, but the new aircraft cannot make the full trip into the United States without stopping for fuel. And because of this, the cartel arranges an earlier stop in Nicaragua at an airfield in Los Brasiles near Managua. After refueling, SEAL takes off from Los Brasiles, flying without lights.
Look at them, radar.
As the plane moves near Managua, Nicaraguan military units, they open fire.
Oh, no.
The aircraft gets hit by gunfire, forcing SEAL to make an emergency landing at Sandino National Airport in Managua. Once on the ground, the drugs are unloaded by the military personnel, and SEAL, along with his co-pilot, taken into custody. Later, both men are released to Federico Vaughn, who described as the cartel's contact in Nicaragua. At least I got him out.
And
he's
he's
going to kill him.
The one that controls the military, probably.
Right. Not everybody buys SEAL's account. Reporter Jonathan Whitney from the Wall Street Journal later criticizes parts of Reagan administration's story in April of 1987. One major issue involves Los Brasiles. Earlier, the administration had described it as a military airfield, but later acknowledged that it was actually just a civilian field, mostly used by crop dusters. Something that the Department of Defense records at the time already showed. Oh my goodness. Records.
Yep, those pesky records.
Records.
According to a federal grand jury indictment, Federico Vaughn is supposedly an aide to Tomas Borre, who at the time is Nicaragua's Minister of the Interior.
Oh, see?
But is it Noriega from Nicaragua? Maybe different guys. Right. But once details of the story start leaking out, reporters and congressional investigators begin challenging it. Journalist Jonathan Whitney, he reports that Vaughn was not actually an aide to Borre at all.
What is he?
Whitney says Vaughn worked with the Interior Ministry as a deputy manager of a state-run import-export company.
Okay.
Then in 88, Congressman William Hughes, who chairs the House Judiciary Subcommittee on Crime, he releases the additional information about Vaughn and the Nicaragua operation. The subcommittee agrees that Pablo Escobar and other cartel figures had been operating out of Nicaragua, but investigators still question how connected Vaughn really was to the Sandinista government. What the fuck is the Sandinista government?
Right.
Where is this?
Sandinista?
Where's the nation of Sandinista?
By Nicaragua.
Maybe. It's a Nicaraguan socialist political party that overthrew the Somoza family dictatorship by 1979.
Okay, so they're in Nicaragua then.
Hughes, he says subcommittee staff actually called Vaughn's listed phone number and discovered that Managua residence tied to it had supposedly been rented since 1981 by a recently expelled employee from the U.S. Embassy.
Uh-oh.
Hughes also points to several mentions of a Freddie Vaughn in the diary of Oliver North, especially entries from July 84. Although nobody ever conclusively proves whether that Freddie Vaughn is actually Federico Vaughn, but clearly it fucking is, right?
Jeez, come on, make fucking sense. No, it's Vince. Jeez. While all this is unfolding, SEAL, he meets again with Pablo Escobar in Managua. Escobar, he said, no more business.
Come, let's take it right.
Let's take it right. Escobar, he's in the process of setting up a cocaine laboratory in Nicaragua. And after the two discussed the growing amount of cocaine moving through the operation, old Pablo, he decides the first shipment should stay in Nicaragua while SEAL goes back in the United States to acquire a much larger aircraft. You see that little Cessna over there? It's not going to work, buddy. We need something bigger. I got plans for you. So the plane,
different guy, bud.
Right. So the plane that SEAL comes back is a C-123K, a large military-style transport aircraft. Before SEAL, how the hell did he get his hands on one of those? Before SEAL heads back into Nicaragua.
Working with the DEA.
Right.
Clearly.
The DEA arranges for technicians from the CIA to secretly install hidden cameras inside throughout the aircraft.
Oh, wow.
25th of June, SEAL returns to the Los Brasiles Air Force airfield in Nicaragua. And at this time, the pickup operation, it works finally. The hidden cameras capture photographs of SEAL and others loading cocaine onto the plane. Among the people photographed, Pablo Escobar, Jose Gonzalo Rodriguez Gacha, Another major,
They gotcha.
right? Another major cartel figure, and of course, Freddie Vaughn. After flying back to the old United States of America, Seal lands at the Homestead Air Force Base. The cocaine is then transferred into a Winnebago camper, which Seal turns over to his Colombian contact.
Later on, the Reagan administration publicly claims that the men helped Seal load the cocaine, including Escobar and Gotcha. They were actually Sandinista soldiers. But critics immediately point out that none of the men in the photographs are wearing military uniforms. Cocaine from the operation cannot just be distributed normally, because if the people handling the Winnebago are immediately arrested, the cartel will instantly realize, Barry Seal had betrayed them. So DEA agents, they come up with a cover story instead. They stage an accident involving the camper and intentionally allow the driver to escape, so it won't look like a controlled operation. Problem with that is, local police, they later arrest the driver anyway, and the strange circumstances surrounding the seizure start making cartel members a little suspicious.
Yeah, I bet. Oh, geez.
Seal later says he makes one more trip into Nicaragua on July 7th. This time he's got money for Pablo to pay Nicaraguan officials for landing rights.
Hey.
Another cocaine shipment's also being planned around the same time. But the DEA decides they don't want to risk taking down another load because it would be much harder to explain away without exposing the operation.
Right.
Under DEA instructions, Seal tells Escobar that the landing area is under DEA surveillance and is too dangerous to use.
Oh.
Because of that, Seal heads back to the United States without carrying any cargo.
All right.
They said, we'll find another one.
Wow. The DEA's long-term plan, it's actually much bigger than just a single shipment. Agents, they want to keep Seal working deeper inside the Medellin Cartel by helping move cocaine base from Colombia into Nicaragua and by inspecting smuggling airfields in both Mexico and the United States. The real goal? Eventually lure cartel leaders into places where American authorities can reach them, potentially extradite them back to the old US of A. But the Nicaragua operation starts falling apart almost immediately after Seal's second trip, because details begin leaking to the press. And it's always got to fucked up with the press. The first public hint comes June 29th. General Paul Gorman, commander of the United States Southern Command, gives a speech saying the United States has evidence that members of the Nicaraguan government are involved in drug smuggling. You dumb bastard.
Idiotic motherfuckers, dude.
Even the CIA is like, you dumb motherfucker. Gorman never mentions Seal by name or even talks publicly about the undercover flights. But the timing creates serious problems. Still unclear whether Seal and his crew even knew about the speech before flying back into Nicaragua. Oh no. Then, 17th of July, reporter Edmund Jacoby publishes a much more detailed story on the front page of the Washington Times. The article does not reveal every detail of the operation, but it gives just enough info to effectively destroy Seal's usefulness inside the cartel and wipe out the DEA's hopes of eventually arresting cartel leadership outside of Colombia. What an idiot. See, this is why the media gets treated the way they do. They're fucking stupid. Once the Nicaragua operation is exposed publicly, DEA, it knows it has to move fast before cartel members disappear. Agents are warned ahead of time that the Edmund Jacoby story is about to be published, which gives them just enough time to act. Before the article hits, Seal arranges a meeting in Miami with Carlos Bustamante, who is described as a cartel chief supervisor. And on the 17th of July, Bustamante and several other cartel employees arrested. Nobody they really wanted, though.
Which, the evidence collected from those arrests, combined with the information Barry Seal had already gathered, becomes the foundation for the first major drug trafficking indictment in the United States against Pablo Escobar.
I've been waiting to get this motherfucker.
And the Ochoa family from the Medellin Cartel. Even after his identity and role became public, Seal still manages to help organize another major undercover DEA operation later that same year. This one involves a complicated cocaine shipment route starting in Bolivia, then stopping for refueling in Colombia, then stopping again in Texas, and finally going all the way to Las Vegas. That's crazy. The DEA, though, they refuse to let Seal personally leave the country because by then he's considered too high risk and too exposed. So instead, Seal has his former brother-in-law, William Bottoms, handle the flight. The operation takes place January of 85, and it works. Shipment leads to multiple arrests and convictions.
Look at that shit.
Then, February of 1985, Seal becomes a key figure in another undercover case, this time involving Norman Saunders, who's serving as chief minister of the Turks and Caicos Islands. It's a British territory south of the Bahamas. Saunders is secretly videotaped in Miami accepting a bribe payment from Seal, and he's later successfully prosecuted. Jeez. Even after Barry Seal, he reaches an agreement with the DEA and the Florida drug task in March of 84. His legal problems are far from over. Authorities in Baton Rouge and Little Rock, Arkansas. They're still actively investigating him at both the state and federal level. Like, come on, guy. What more do you guys want to do for him?
Holy shit. October 1984. A grand jury in Louisiana is convened, and they start hearing testimony from witnesses connected to Seal's activities. Seal, he tries to fight back publicly the next month by appearing in a TV news documentary series aired by WBRZ in Baton Rouge.
BRZ.
The series is called Uncle Sam Wants You and runs for 5 straight nights. During those interviews, Seal, he denies being a smuggler and instead portrays himself as someone being unfairly targeted and harassed by the government.
Oh, well, that's not going to go over well for you, bud.
The government should be like, what? Check out all this
Evidence
against you, buddy. Louisiana narcotics agents, they're investigating him. They're furious over how they're portrayed in the broadcast. They end up filing lawsuits.
Oh, jeez.
But the case is dismissed. Not long after the series airs, leaders from both the Florida and Louisiana task force, they meet. They want to work out a deal involving Seal. The agreement allows him to continue cooperating with the Florida task force while also testifying as a witness during future trials. As part of the arrangement, they agree that whatever sentence Seal receives for his Louisiana crimes will not be any longer than a sentence already tied to his Florida smuggling case. And both of those will win concurrently.
All right.
So, okay, it works out. Barry, he's taken into federal custody June 1985. And for the next several months, he spends most of his time testifying. During that stretch, he becomes the key witness in 3 major trials. First of those trials, July, involving Norman Saunders and other officials from the Turks and Caicos Island. Then in August, Seal testifies in Miami trial against cartel distributors, connected to the Medellin Cartel. In August, he appears in Las Vegas in a case involving traffickers tied to the Bolivia to Las Vegas cocaine shipment. All 3 trials end in convictions against every defendant involved.
Why is he going to jail then? I mean,
right.
Jeez.
Especially if they end in convictions. Isn't that like a reward thing?
You would think.
You get a reward if convicted. Around that same period,
Like 3 years off.
Right. Seal also publicly appears before the President's Commission on Organized Crime. He talks openly about his years working as a drug smuggler.
That he claimed he said he wasn't.
Right. Wow. Back in Florida, Seal, he returns to court regarding the second indictment connected to the Operation Big Screamer. Even though he had already pled guilty, his DEA supervisors strongly support him because of the undercover work that he performed. Look at you guys. As a result, the court said, you know what? Just 5 years unsupervised probation.
Wow. Unsupervised.
Look at that.
That's crazy.
Basically do what the fuck you want and just show up once a week or call once a week.
Maybe. After testifying in LV, otherwise known as Las Vegas, Seal spends another month inside Witness Protection Center. Then October of 85, he heads back into court for the first Big Screamer indictment. The case had originally carried a 10 sentence of years. After hearing detailed summaries of the work Seal had done for the DEA, Judge Norman Rotker, he sentenced him to time already served, which amounts to a little more than 3 months spent in witness protection, along with another 3 years probation.
There you go.
When Seal ends up getting only probation and time already served in Florida, investigators in Louisiana suddenly find themselves in a terrible position.
Yeah, what are you going to do?
See, they had assumed Seal would spend some serious time in prison down in Florida. Because of the agreement worked out between the Florida and Louisiana Drug Task Force back in December of 84, Louisiana authorities are now basically stuck with the outcome.
Right. You guys got screwed.
Problem with that is, though, Louisiana charges against Seal were actually much more serious. Seal, he's pleading guilty to purchasing 200 kilos or about 440 pounds of coke, which is already beyond the scale of the Florida case.
Right.
Before the agreement had even been finalized, Louisiana investigators had also been digging into allegations he was involved in smuggling thousands of kilos of cocaine as well.
Too bad. Sad.
Seal sentencing here in January of 86, Judge Frank Polozzola openly admits he is legally bound by the agreement already made between the task forces. He also makes it very clear he is unhappy.
Okay, cool.
Polozzola tells Seal and his attorney that Florida's decision to avoid prison time has now forced him into handing down probation for crimes he considers far more serious. The judge also warns Seal that the probation terms are going to be extremely strict, though. It says if Seal violates them, the plea agreement could be revoked and he could be resentenced. During the hearing, Polozzola calls people like Seal the lowest, most despicable people I can think of.
Well, good for him.
Then he adds another major restriction. Seal is forbidden from carrying a firearm or even hiring armed bodyguards because as a convicted felon, he would be in possession or near a possession of a weapon.
Wow.
That's going to matter later. Seal's attorney, Louis Unglesby, he tells the judge ruling is basically a death sentence for his client.
All right.
Later, Seal tells friends that the judge made me a clay pigeon.
You ain't kidding.
Just target practice.
Oh, my goodness.
And he was right.
Wow, the probation rules are so severe. Seal cannot leave Baton Rouge unless judge said so. For the first 6 months of probation, he is also ordered to spend every single night from 6 p.m. until 6 a.m. inside a halfway house. Seal, he ends up assigned to the Salvation Army Community Treatment Center in Baton Rouge. Barry Seal had originally been introduced to members of the Medellin Cartel under the fake name Ellis McKenzie. At first, the cartel only knew that their pilot had turned DA informant after newspaper stories broke out and that their Miami distributors arrested. But they still did not realize that Ellis McKenzie was actually Barry Seal. That changed once cartel members got a hold of television documentary Seal appeared in. He's like, wait a minute. What is this guy?
Some would say he sealed his fate.
Right. After watching it, they finally connected the dots and they realized, holy shit, that is McKenzie. And what happened after that? The cartel put out a contract ordering that he either be kidnapped or murdered.
Or just murdered.
Later, high-level Miami cartel distributor Max Mermelstein, he testified in court that he was shown the documentary only a few days after it aired. According to Mermelstein, cartel leadership told him they wanted Seal either captured alive or just murdered. The reward was supposedly set at $50,000. Add another $450,000. The reward, $500,000 if he's murdered and $1 million if he's alive.
Because they wanted to bring him in alive and torture the fuck out of him, have some fun with him.
Damn.
Nasty sons of bitches.
Mermelstein, he later says that he accepted the contract because if he refused it, he would have been killed. He received phone calls from Fabio Ochoa and Pablo Escobar himself, thanking him for help. He is also given $100,000 just to cover expenses connected to DAP. Look at that.
I'd be taking the cheapest modes of transportation and everything.
Before Mermelstein can actually track down Seal, federal authorities, they arrest him in June 85. Mm-hmm. Soon afterward, he tells investigators about the murder contract, and Seal is informed that the cartel is offering $500,000 for his death. He's like, whoa.
Yeah, well, it didn't matter. So on the evening of February 19th, 1986, Barry, he's murdered outside the Salvation Army Center in Baton Rouge, only about 3 weeks after starting probation.
They told him.
That night, Seal drives into the parking lot and parks his car like he normally would. As he does, a man steps out from behind the Salvation Army donation drop boxes, opens fire with a suppressed MAC-10 submachine gun.
Ooh.
Seal is hit 6 times and dies almost instantly at the scene.
I'm sure.
After the killing, 6 Colombians are arrested in connection with the murder. 3 of them, Luis Carlos Quintero Cruz, Miguel Velez, and Bernardo Antonio Vasquez. They're all indicted on Louisiana state charges for capital murder.
Uh-oh.
Another suspect charged separately on lesser offenses. While investigators say there's not enough direct evidence against the other 2 who were eventually released and deported.
Oh, okay.
Federal prosecutors also go after higher-ranking cartel figures connected to the assassination.
Yep.
In addition to the state murder charges against the gunmen, federal indictments are filed against Fabio Ochoa, Pablo Escobar, and cartel member Rafael Cardona Salazar.
Uh-oh.
Prosecutors accused them of conspiring to violate Seal's civil rights by arranging his murder. Do you think?
Right.
Because Barry's murder gets so much publicity and causes such a high public reaction, and trials delayed for several months. Finding an unbiased jury in Baton Rouge becomes nearly impossible, especially when there's a bunch of foreigners and shit doing it. So the case eventually moved over to Lake Charles. The trial finally begins April of 1987.
Look at that.
I would say Lake Charles is probably going to be even more biased.
Right.
It sounds like a small town where these guys are not going to take fondly to these damn immigrants.
Damn.
Illegal at that.
Right. 2 most important witnesses, Max Mermelstein and Luis Carlos Uribe Munera. During this
so Max turned, huh?
During this testimony, Mermelstein tells the court that after his arrest in 1985, he informed the DEA about the murder contract that had been placed on Seal. He says that Fabio Ochoa and Pablo and Rafael Cardona Salazar personally approached him about carrying out the hit. They also supplied him with money and weapons. Mermelstein also testifies that he personally watched Cardona test fire the murder weapon inside his garage. And then later, the FBI forensic investigators recovered bullets from that very same garage wall that matched the gun used to kill Seal.
Oh, shit.
Mermelstein, he further says that he knew defendant Miguel Velez and claims that Velez was present when the murder contract was handed over. According to Mermelstein, Velez later approached him and asked for the contract to be transferred over to him instead. He's like, let me do it, bud. Luis Carlos Uribe Munera is another major witness. He had worked as a drug smuggler for the Medellin Cartel, and he also testified that in 1986 of January, Jorge Jorge.
Don't fuck me, George.
Jorge Ochoa personally ordered him to kill Barry Seal. So we got everybody asking everybody to kill him.
Right.
Crazy.
Right.
Crazy. According to Mena, he eventually refuses because he realizes there's a good chance the cartel will murder him afterward to tie up any loose ends. After refusing the order, cartel.
So one guy did it because he didn't want to get killed, and this guy's like, "No, you're going to kill me."
Well, he's right because after refusing that order, cartel gunman shoots him 5 times.
Just because he refused.
Wow. Guess what, though? Obviously, he survives. And he makes his way to the United States Embassy in Bogota. He said, I need asylum, baby. I got all these bullet holes.
You see these?
Eventually, what if they tried shooting and they shot him in the same bullet holes? This guy won't die. No, man, you just...
That's good. It's already a wound.
Wow. This is where he agrees to plead guilty to conspiracy charges involving importation and distribution of cocaine. He's like, what do you want me to do? Yeah, cool. Yep, I did.
Right, I'll go to jail, I guess.
All the fucking cocaine in the United States came from me, baby.
Prosecutors, they also present a large amount of eyewitness testimony and forensic evidence against Quintero Cruz, Velez, and Vasquez. One witness identifies Velez as the driver of the vehicle sitting in the halfway house parking lot.
Yeah, that's why he got...
Another eyewitness says Cruz is seen outside the car after the shooting, handing the MAC-10 back through the window to the driver. Investigators also recover fingerprints from all 3 men inside the vehicle.
Idiots.
Vasquez is identified by a car dealership salesman as the man who purchased the vehicle used at the halfway. Why would you buy a whole vehicle for that?
Right.
Records show he also rented hotel rooms and cars under his own name.
You stupid
What a bunch of morons. All 3 defendants convicted, sentenced to life without parole.
Good.
Years later, January 2023, John Bell Edwards denies Vasquez's request for clemency. He said, no, buddy, no.
You guys got some nerve.
No.
I'm going to file for clemency.
1988, though, the House Judiciary Committee holds hearings examining how details about Barry Seal's Nicaragua operation ended up even leaking to the press in the first place that got all this shit rolling.
How does anything get leaked to the press?
During the hearings, DEA agent Ernst Jacobson testifies he had heard the leak came from someone connected to the old White House itself.
Makes sense. Fucking Ronald Reagan up in that bitch.
Jacobson, he also says that Oliver North attended 2 meetings involving the undercover sting operation and had a possible motive for releasing the information. At the time, news outlet United Press International, they reports that publicly linking the Sandinista government to drug trafficking could make U.S. support for anti-Sandinista rebels accused of human rights abuses seem more acceptable politically.
Oh, now it's starting to come to light.
Fucking trash, dude.
Now it's starting to come together.
Congressman William Hughes, who chairs the subcommittee, he strongly suggests that North may have been behind the leak. But Representative Bill McCollum, he pushes back a little bit, saying nobody actually knows who actually leaked it, and no one has been able to definitively identify the source. So let's just keep it at that, right. Even though we really do know.
Yeah, just like nobody knows how that package of cocaine got left in the White House either.
Right.
Insane. Then, December 1988, the Kerry Committee, they release a report that cites testimony from the DEA Administrator John Lawn. The report, it points the finger directly at Oliver North, and it says he decided to play politics with the issue. Later in an interview with Frontline, North says his peers on the National Security Council, they instructed him to brief Senator Paul Hawkins about the operation, but he denies personally leaking any info. Hawkins also tells Frontline...
Yeah, you see how that little word personally comes there?
Right. Hawkins also tells Frontline that neither she nor anyone on her staff leaked information after the briefing. Yeah, whatever. Reporter Edmund Jacoby, he denies that Oliver North was the source for his article at all. Instead, Jacoby says the information came from a now deceased staff member, of course, working for Representative Dan Daniel.
Yeah, also with 2 first names, but
2 first names. Can't do it. You got to kill him instantly. Late 1985, the Medellin Cartel openly places a $500,000 bounty on Barry's head, as we said. Even with the threat hanging over him, the United States government failed to keep continuous protection around him. Even after initial safeguards from the United States Marshal Services were eventually pulled back. They're like, what? His lawyers even said, Judge, he's going to die. No, halfway house, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Not allowed to have bodyguards either. So,
no, son of a bitch. Part of the problem was Seal himself. He refused full entry to the witness program because joining would have meant giving up his ability to fly aircraft.
Oh, guy, come on. He's like, I still am hoping to smuggle some shit
right.
one day.
Seal considered flying essential to his life and work, even with the danger surrounding him. Critics, they later argued that federal agencies should have forced stronger security measures around him anyway, just because he had become such a valuable witness in the cartel leadership from here on out.
Right.
I mean, holy shit.
If they would have ever caught Pablo Escobar and Ochoa guys, like during this time, he would have been like the number one witness.
Right. Idiots.
But instead, they just gunned him down.
Right.
Not Seal, but Pablo. Major turning point came December 20th, 1985, when U.S. District Court, Polozola, he said, nope, you ain't getting no armed security, you can't carry a gun, and you got to go to this halfway house where everybody's going to know where you are. Which effectively locked him into a predictable routine.
Right.
He was required to stay in Baton Rouge, spend every night at the halfway house. Couldn't leave the area without permission.
Fuck that. If I was him, the whole 6 months I was at that halfway house,
stay there.
I'd just never fucking leave.
Right. He was forbidden from using armed bodyguards, like we said. He was later described, like we said, a clay pigeon. The sentence was supposed to balance punishment for Seal's smuggling convictions with the credit for his cooperation, but critics later argued that it instead left him exposed in a fixed location while cartel threats were escalating.
What really did, well, it pissed Louisiana off because that would have been one of their biggest cases that they would have won.
Right.
And they lost a lot of money.
That's how dirty these guys are. Mm-hmm. According to those critics, federal agencies never even properly stepped in to override the security risks created by the probation terms.
Oh, my.
After Seal's assassination.
Yeah, because Louisiana was like, fuck you guys. We signed it. You did what they did there. You got to let us get something here. We're going to make a little bit of money off the 6 months at the halfway house. Not much, but.
I guess, but. After his assassination February 19th, 86, Louisiana Attorney General William Goose Day Jr. personally delivered a letter to U.S. Attorney General Edwin Meese March 3rd, criticizing federal agencies, especially the DEA, for failing to protect Seal.
Right.
Despite knowing about the cartel bounty. You guys did it.
Right. Of course, they're going to pass the buck.
Oh, wow.
Fucking Louisiana. A bunch of inbreds down there, motherfucker.
He demanded an investigation to why Seal had not been forced into protective custody and also questioned how cartel assassins managed to obtain a military-style MAC-10 inside the United States. Well, come on. That's the easiest thing to guess.
Same way they got in.
Right. The criticism is they got a MAC-10 at the border from agents. The criticism.
What you want? You got a Glock, a MAC-10,
12 gauge. Give me the MAC-10. Yeah. Criticism focused heavily on what many saw as bureaucratic failures and poor coordination between federal agencies like the DEA, FBI, both of which had used Seal as an informant, but allegedly failed to coordinate properly on protecting him. At Goose Day's request, Meese ordered an investigation into whether attorneys and officials in Louisiana, Florida, and Washington had failed to secure proper safeguards for Seal. So they're just going round and round. No, it's your fault.
Right.
No, it's your fault. No, it's your fault.
Wow. April of 1986, two investigators from Louisiana State Police, they publicly blamed the DEA for not taking stronger action, especially considering the well-known threat of cartel retaliation. Critics argue that Seal's case reflected a larger pattern, where informers were heavily used for intelligence operations and then thrown out to the wolves. Crazy.
Yeah.
Government officials defending the agencies argued that Seal himself bore much of the responsibility because he refused relocation. We would have put him wherever he wanted or wherever we could put him, but he said no. He wanted to fly his little fucking plane. Critics pointed to the final outcome, Seal's murder in February 1986. That's proof that the system handling him had failed despite clear warnings about the danger he was in. He said, I'm in danger.
Sometimes you got to save people from themselves, man.
Right. For years, people have speculated that Barry Seal may have been some kind of a weird relationship with the Central Intelligence Agency.
CIA.
A lot of that speculation comes from both his early flying activities and the undercover operations that he later carried out in the 80s.
You're telling me the CIA wasn't involved in all these inter-country, and damn well they were trying to do things in South America at the time.
They're involved everywhere. Some stories, they claim that back in the 50s, Seal flew weapons to revolutionaries loyal to Fidel Castro while they were fighting that's another thing.
Maybe.
We should go into the Fidel Castro fiasco.
Well, everybody knows that.
Do they, though? When they were fighting the Batista government in Cuba. Because CIA had major interest in Cuban affairs during that period, people later started wondering whether Seal had some kind of connection to the agency. What's going on here? But no direct evidence was ever surfaced. Of course, why would it?
Because after he died, they went to their computers and said, delete everything that had to do with Seal.
Well, the CIA itself, unsurprisingly, denied that Seal was ever an employee or an intelligence asset. Seal also publicly denied, of course he did, having any CIA affiliation. He's more scared of the CIA than he is the cartel.
Jeez.
Oh, my.
A lot of these conspiracy theories really exploded after the DEA operation in Nicaragua. During that, he photographed members of the Medellin Cartel loading coke into his aircraft. Because the operation later became tangled up in discussions surrounding the Iran-Contra affair, people started drawing connections between SEAL and covert intelligence operations. Another reason the rumors kept growing involved the aircraft itself. The C-123K that he used during Nicaragua operation was later transferred and eventually shot down over Nicaragua in 1986 while carrying supplies, quote-unquote, connected to the Contra forces.
Okay.
That led some people to claim the CIA had secretly orchestrated the earlier mission or installed hidden cameras aboard the plane for intelligence gathering. That is kind of weird, the same plane.
Right.
Despite all the rumors, there's never been verified evidence proving the CIA directly controlled SEAL's Nicaragua flights or even officially recruited him as an intelligence asset. The operation itself was openly authorized through the DEA as an anti-drug sting. Sure. Claims about CIA installed cameras have also never been fully confirmed, though primary government records are often traced back to later secondary accounts or politically charged sources instead of direct evidence.
There's not one damn operation ever since the CIA has been indoctrined that they didn't know about. Bullshit.
Right.
Get out of here. 2020 declassified FBI documents. They confirm that CO had used Mena Intermountain Regional Airport in Arkansas for cocaine smuggling operations from 80 to 84. Those records come from a joint investigation involving FBI, the Arkansas State Police, and the IRS.
They're like, there's money.
But the documents focus specifically on narcotic smuggling and did not contain evidence of CIA-directed intelligence work or special agency protection at all.
Sure.
Stories about rogue CIA involvement, secret weapon smuggling, or covert Contra funding operations connected to SEAL still circulate to this very day, but researchers have never produced any hard evidence. Because of that, most of the theories remain based more on speculation and circumstantial connections than any proven institutional involvement. And that's their story, and they're sticking to it.
Right, they can never stop on that.
Wow. By the end of Barry Seal's life, there were people who saw him as a patriot. There were people who saw him as a criminal. And there was also people who thought he was both at the exact same time.
Hey, why not both?
The truth is, Seal, he spent years building one of the biggest drug smuggling operations in America. Moved cocaine by the ton, making millions for himself and the Medellin Cartel. But once those walls started closing in, he flipped easily, as they all do. He became one of the most valuable informants the government's ever seen. That decision helped bring down traffickers, expose major drug smuggling routes, and tied some of the most powerful drug figures in the whole world directly to criminal cases. But it also painted a target on his very, very, very pale white back that never went away.
Maybe that's why Barry Seal's story still gets argued about, even now. Not because people disagree on whether he was a smuggler. We know he was.
He was.
That part's obvious. It's because his life sat right in the middle of so many worlds at once. Some drug cartels, federal agents, Cold War politics, most importantly. Rumors about covert operations, real undercover missions, corrupt officials, informants, assassins. The deeper people dig into the story, the messier it gets.
Right. And in the end, in the words of Hillary Clinton, what difference does it make?
Right. Strip that all away, the conspiracy theories and Hollywood versions of it, and the ending is actually pretty simple. See, he spent years believing he could outfly everybody around him, and he did. For a minute. The cartel, the government, the courts, the danger. For a time, he did. But in the end, the same connections and deals that made him rich also made him impossible to protect. And that February night in Baton Rouge, 1986, the man who once moved cocaine across half the hemisphere ended up trapped in the most predictable place imaginable, sitting alone in a halfway house parking lot, waiting for the killers who everybody already knew were coming.
Well, that's pretty bullshit. He's just waiting for him.
Crazy, dude. Fuck the CIA. Yeah. Fuck the fucking federal government.
Yeah. He's a pawn. He's one of those guys that just got...
insane. That's the same thing they did to White Boy Rick.
Yep.
Fucked him over.
Same exact fucking thing.
Crazy. We're giving this dude drugs to sell. And then we're like, no, we're still going to put you away for fucking 20 years or whatever the hell he did. Crazy.
It's the same thing to do with all these informants that go into biker gangs and then the fucking all that shit. They just hang them out there to dry. And then they try to charge them with crimes they did while they were infiltrating.
Well, not only that, they hang them out to drive to the point where they're like, we're going to reveal your identity.
Right. You're like, what?
How many times does that happen?
Can't fucking do that.
Idiots, dude. Idiots. I guess the moral of the story: don't get caught in drug smuggling and illegal operations where you're put in that position to have to become an informant in the first place, huh? That's very seal.
Mm-hmm.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're out of here. Bye.